Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's interview. I am Candace Paul, founder of Aknowingspirit LLC, a publishing company that is much more than publishing. We build communities online and help creatives with uplifting messages share their vision with the world. Today, I had the opportunity to speak to Brandon Jay McLaren, an up and coming actor who stars in the hit Netflix series Firefly Lane. We discuss acting, following your dreams, and what's next for Brandon's career. I mean, it's been really good for you lately.
Yeah. It's been a little wild. This is the thing. Like, you never know when something comes out. You never know how it's gonna hit, right? There's no telling. So, but it's been great. I mean, this is everything that you could ever hope for.
Yeah, exactly, as an actor. So before we get into all of your work, tell me about your family background.
Yeah. So my dad's from Grenada,
Right.
Grenville, and my mom's from Port of Spain, Trinidad.
Awesome.
Yeah. And they met in Canada, and I was born in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Your background is similar to mine. My
Okay.
parents are from, my dad's from St. David,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I have some family in Canada and some family in Trinidad.
Okay, cool. Very, very cool.
Like,
And where do you live right now?
I live in DC right
You live
now.
in DC.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure we have people in common that we know. If we talk long enough, you can always find one, right?
We do. And you're always related to somebody.
Yeah.
You never know. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Firefly Lane. Okay.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, I said to myself, I started watching the show and I was like, oh, I'm only going to watch one episode.
Okay.
7 episodes later.
Really? I think, yeah. Okay. So full disclosure, I haven't been able to watch it yet.
Really?
Um, yeah, because I'm actually shooting another show right now
Okay.
as we speak. So I really haven't had like a couple days to like really, get into it. So I haven't even seen it yet myself, which is wild. But I have been hearing that like, yeah, like you watch one and you're like, let me just watch one more. And then 7 hours later, you go into the Firefly Lane rabbit hole, right?
Exactly. It is binge worthy. It is seriously binge
That's
worthy.
awesome. That's awesome.
So I wanted to ask you about your character, Travis.
Sure.
So, how did you prepare for the role? And how much of Travis were you?
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, Travis, Travis didn't require a whole bunch of preparation. I think the biggest sort of, I guess, leap from myself to Travis was having a teenage daughter.
Gotcha.
Because that means I'm kind of old now. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, when did that happen? I was like, how old's my daughter in the show? So like, oh yeah, like a 14-year-old. I was like, when did
Uh,
that happen?
yeah, yeah.
So that was a little wild for me. So I guess maybe like, looking back, sort of, I guess sort of imagining what it'd be like to have a teenage child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm 40 and I'm childless. Um, so maybe trying to sort of carry, I guess, that weight of responsibility of having a teenager. And also, as you know, Travis's wife had passed. So, so just sort of like trying to like bring in a certain level of, I guess, like sort of grounding to him,
Yeah,
because I can only imagine his life is just full of responsibility. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Um, so I think maybe as I talk it out with you now, maybe that sort of like was my thought process.
Yeah. And I mean, he seemed like a very fun loving guy, the whole purpose of their interaction. It's like, hey, you're a parent, I'm a parent, and
Right?
start
You
hanging
look
out.
good. I look alright. What's popping? Yeah,
Lights
exactly.
are on. So I like that. That was really cool. So tell
Yeah.
me about some of your other roles in the past.
I mean, so like I don't know if you know, but I was a Power Ranger once upon a time, the Red Ranger, and I always tell people that was an incredible experience. That was I got that when I was 24 years old, so we're going up upon like it's 20 years ago, close to, which is wild. Um, but that was really important because that was the job that allowed me to quit all my other jobs. and only be an actor. And that's really pivotal as a young actor, when you don't have to work in a restaurant anymore, or, you know, have another side job. So that was really, really important. And you know, the Power Rangers is still going on today. It's like on their 30th season. So just to be a part of that exclusive club of something that, you know, Power Rangers is kind of like a cockroach. You can't, like, it won't die. It won't.
And it's good. I love it.
It's a good cockroach. Yeah. It will not die. And some other shows, I think, like The Killing was really important for me in terms of my career. I know when that first season came out, Patty Jenkins, who now does all the Wonder Womans, she's very famous. She directed the pilot. I believe she was the first female director to win the DGC award for Best Direction in a Pilot. She's brilliant, so I got to work with her. And I think that first season, we got nominated for 6 Emmys. So that show kind of really catapulted me into like a different, I guess, tier.
Yeah.
I think my favorite show that I've done today is a show called Graceland on USA Network.
Okay, yes, I know.
I played an undercover ICE agent named Dale Jakes. We did 3 seasons of that. And I'm still really good friends with everybody in the cast. I had a lot of fun on that show, and you know, Jeff Easton, who was the showrunner, he really like gave me the opportunity to shine. Really wrote for my character, and I will always be grateful to him for that. And then here we are now with Firefly Lane, and now I'm doing Turner and Hooch currently.
Okay.
Yeah, the reboot of Turner and Hooch on on Disney Plus. So we're about halfway through the season. That should be coming out sometime this year.
Okay, and I was going to ask you what's going on.
Yeah, that's why I haven't had time to watch Firefly Lane yet. But I think I'm going to get into it this week. It's a long weekend this weekend, so I think I'm gonna sit down, get some popcorn, and really dig in. Yeah.
And how are you when you're watching yourself acting? Are you critical? Are you taking notes? What are you doing when you're watching yourself?
Like, I'll be honest with you, I prefer not to. You know, the last thing I ever want to do is watch myself and then become self-conscious when I'm on set, when I'm in the moment. Because I think that'd probably make me a lesser actor and probably like a lesser person to act opposite if I'm always worried about myself and like what I'm doing.
That makes sense.
So I'm really conscious about not watching myself so as to not get in my head. But this Firefly Lane thing is so popular, I don't think I have a choice.
And let's talk about that. Literally the other day, I think it was holding the number 1 and 2 spot on Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, it is popular, and just the whole story and what it's talking about, friendship, family, career. Yeah. It's everything that people can relate to. And
you know what I was thinking just the other day? I also think like it's kind of the right show for the right time. It's a show about friendship when so many of us can't see our friends because we're all isolated. It's a show about family when nobody can go see family, and we haven't been for like the last year. It's about nostalgia, and I think everybody's pining for pre-pandemic times. So, you know, all these elements that the show touches on are all things that I think everybody is pining for. So I really do believe it's the right show for the right time, and I think, you know, that has something to do with why it's so popular, struck a chord with everybody, you know, and not just in the US and Canada, but around the world. Everybody's watching the show because I think we're all connected by this, what's been happening over the last year.
Absolutely. And my question to you is, do you have any friends that you've known forever, like Kate and Tully, you know? Like
I do. I mean, I have you know, there's a couple guys, Nick and Nigel Simon, who I grew up with here. Nick and I were born in the same hospital 2 days apart. So much so that I call them my cousins, and we're not related, but we just call each other cousins because I've known them literally my entire life. So those guys are proud. And, you know, like, I've been away for a while now. Like, I grew up here, but I went to college in Albany, New York. And then I moved to LA when I was like 26. I'm 40 now. So I've been gone a long time. And whenever I get up with those guys, nothing ever changes. It's same, you know? And I think
Don't miss.
That's what don't miss can't miss a beat. So that's what real friendship's about.
So let me ask you this, because when you said you got that first job and it allowed you to quit the other jobs.
Yeah.
Talk about the hard work that goes into acting and being an actor
Right.
and auditioning, all of that. Tell me.
You know, acting is funny. It's a funny thing because it's not supposed to happen to anybody. Like nobody, like, you know, nobody's supposed to be able to make a living out of this thing. You know what I mean? So when you come into it, you have to have, you know, this really sort of unwavering self-belief that like, it's not supposed to happen, but why couldn't it happen to me? And so you have to go into that with that mindset state. And then you have to follow up with like insanely hard work, like insane focus. And not everybody's gonna like you, you know, it's such a subjective thing that like you can go in and do a great job and that person could just not like your vibe. And it's not, you know, there's no, you know, there's no like, you know, measurable yardstick, you know what I mean? No quantifiable way to measure it. However, in saying that, all you have to do is convince one person who has influence to like you, and that can change your life. So, but yeah, it was really hard. It was really hard. I mean, it's never gets easy, and that's what I love about it. It's always challenging, and there's always room to get better.
You're pushing yourself all the time.
Always. Because, you know, you're your own, you are, I mean, I guess not directly, but you have a large influence on your own success. So you have to sort of always keep that work ethic up. I always say, like, anybody could get a show once. It's very hard to, over a 30, 40-year sample size, to have, you know, to keep that career going. And that's just a function of like unrelenting hard work.
You said it. And it only takes that one yes, you know,
Yeah.
and I said it doesn't matter how many times you've heard no.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Yep.
And so I'm wondering now, like, what are you planning? What's the next thing for Brandon? Like, what are you
next thing right now? Like, the next thing is definitely developing, and I have a couple things in development right now. So I'm really looking to sort of lean into that part of the business. And it's a great time because I think now more than ever, people are open to like stories from people who look different and who have different experiences.
Yes.
And in fact, I think there's an appetite for those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, it's a good time for me because, you know, it takes a while to sort of, I guess, build, you know, sort of like a resume of credibility. It takes a long time, but once you build that, you can try to parlay that into the other side, you know, behind the camera developing. So I've been really focused on that for the last year. There's nothing I can talk about now because development is a very fickle thing.
I understand.
But the moment there is something like the moment there are concrete things in place, you will hear about it for sure.
Yes, please.
Try to figure out why you really want to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's anything else you think you might want to do, you should probably do that. Like, get out the game. Yeah, because, you know, like I said, this thing will take a chunk out of you, man. Like, and so if you don't love it for the right reasons, it becomes very hollow and very empty, and sort of, and very unforgiving. So just, you know, I would say do like a self-check and ask yourself, why am I really here? You know, like what do I really want? And if you do that and you're still like, you know what, yeah, I think I'm here for the right reasons and I don't really see myself doing anything else, then stick it through, because that's what's going to keep you nourished through the lean times when, you know, you're getting a lot of no's and things aren't going your way, or you've been second choice for 2 years, because that'll happen. You can be real close and, you know, and always like, it's you and the other guy got it again, you know, and that's also equally as frustrating. What's going to keep you motivated is, you know, when you kind of pare everything down and you're like, I'm still here because I love this shit, and there's nothing else I want to do.
There's nothing else.
So,
and so has that been what you've always wanted to do, acting, or did you start off doing something else and then you got into acting?
No, I think like deep down inside, it's always what I wanted to do. Obviously, you know, having West Indian parents, that wasn't really a thing. you know, which is funny because my mom is the one who got me into this.
Yeah.
And then when it started to go well, she was like, well, this is going a little too well. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, come back. I love you, Mom, if she's going to see this.
Yeah.
But ironically, yeah, she's the one that got me into this. So it took me a while. It took me going away to college, actually, and like getting away from like home and like going on to the other side of the continent to kind of, I guess, sort of take responsibility for my life and realize, you know, like at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to wake up and answer to my own decisions, right?
Yep.
And so I think that's when I kind of, you know, mustered up the courage to be like, hey, like, this is what I actually want to do, and I owe it to myself to give it like a proper shot. You know, there's nothing worse than being the coulda, woulda, shoulda guy. I hate that guy. You know what I mean? You know those people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Miss me with that. Well, then you should have done it, and so get out of my face. Like I have no time for those
patience
people.
for it. And
Get out of here with that, man. Miss me. I'm like, I don't want to hear you didn't do it. So you know what I mean? So I never wanted to be that guy. So I said I owe it to myself to give it a hard shot.
Absolutely. And so talking about your support system, your parents, so they've always kind of been behind you. And I've said like family's important, friends are important, the people that you choose to be around are important. Yeah. And so have you felt like you've always gotten that support, or have you kind of had to fight for it? Or
like I said, my parents, I love my parents dearly. But I had to fight for it initially, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know, and I, you know, looking back now, I just think they just didn't know. Like and you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? And you know, I feel like, you know, it's just sort of like there's certain spaces, especially as when your parents are immigrants and, you know, and you're first generation, you feel like there's a lot of spaces that aren't for us. You know, you just assume that it's not for us. And because, you know, there's no sort of blueprint, or you've never seen anybody do it before, you just assume that there must be a reason it's just not for us. That's not true. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I don't know. I was like, yo, why not? Why isn't it for me? And if it's not for me now, I'm gonna make it for me. So
that confidence, you know, and I say to people all the time, just try, you know, try.
And you know what? Sometimes like that's how you learn what you don't like.
Yeah.
Which is equally as valuable.
It's important.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
sometimes
important.
When you try something, like, well, at least I crossed that off my list. And it just makes your list smaller, which is equally as valuable. So yeah, you're right. Just try. Put yourself out there and try.
Try. Cool. So, I mean, what other advice would you have for anyone? Because our platform basically help like indie artists and people who are creatives get their work out there and stuff like that. And you know, sometimes it's hard writing a script and saying, you know,
first of all, my first piece of advice was do not worry about your results. Results are that don't think about what you know. You don't know until you do something. Focus on producing something, hard copy, something to show, something to give to somebody to read, something to give somebody to listen to. You know, we all talk about what we want to do in our private spaces or with our friends. And the hardest part is actually taking the first step to begin it. And the hardest part is to finish it. So just work on completing, finish. And even if it's finish something, get in the habit of finishing things.
Yeah.
Because then you have a foundation from which to improve.
Absolutely.
Right. But the only way you can improve is when you have to set that foundation, however flimsy or sort of, you know, amateur it may be. That's the beginning. That's the starting point of everything.
And you can always improve upon it.
From that, but until you do that, you're just blown in the wind. You're just talking.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's good. So can you tell us maybe like a funny story that's happened to you with this whole acting thing? Maybe something that's like, man, this is coincidental, and I was just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I absolutely. So So the way I got into commercials, my mom, I was 12. This is like 92. My mom was driving home from work, and I think she heard an ad on a radio station that they were looking for ethnic kids commercials.
Wow.
I don't even know if you can say that anymore on the radio.
Like, ethnic
You
kids,
you
okay.
might get fired. But anyway, this is 92. So she come home one day and she was like, "Hey, Brandon," and I have a younger brother as well. And she's like, "Yo, I heard this ad on the radio. You guys want to start auditioning for commercials?" And I was like, "Yo, that sounds like sure." And like, sometimes you get to leave school early and stuff. I was like, "This shit sounds lit."
Exactly. Yeah.
Cut to like, I ended up booking like 5 commercials in my first year.
All right.
The very first commercial I ever booked in my whole life, and you can Google it. It was a honeycomb commercial. If you Google honeycomb, we all love the taste, you will find this commercial.
I have to do it.
I have like the box cup with the slant.
Oh, wow.
I'm doing the Running Man. It's incredible.
I'm in the mood for the lunch. So give me the taste that goes crunch.
Cut to I'm 22 now. This is 10 years later. I'm finished college in Albany. I'm back in Vancouver. Just got a new agent. And my agent's like, "Listen, like, you're new. We're just going to start you off auditioning for commercials and stuff." And the first line that I ever auditioned for was a one-liner. It was the first speaking role I ever got. So I walk into the audition room. This is 10 years later. And it's the same casting director who cast me in that honeycomb commercial.
Yes.
And she was like, "Hey, Brandon, do you remember me?" And I lied. I was like, "Yeah. Hey, I don't remember. I was 12. I'm 22.
Yeah,
I got no idea who this woman was." She was like, I cast you in the honeycomb commercial." And she ended up casting me in my first speaking role ever too. So it's the same woman cast me in my first commercial, my first acting job ever, 10 years apart. So that's wild. Isn't that wild?
That's awesome. And coincidence, or is it? Sometimes I feel like a lot of these things are just fate.
Yeah, they line up in a weird way, in a way you can't explain it.
Absolutely. So one more thing for you.
Sure.
So in terms of the roles that you're choosing now, what do you want to do more of? What are you thinking about in terms of the acting roles that you choose?
For me, it's real important to sort of oscillate between comedy and drama. Like, I don't like to do too many yet, you know what I mean? So like Turner and Hooch, this is a comedy. Yeah. It's an hour-long action comedy. So the next thing I do after I do this, I like to go back and do something really dramatic.
Yeah.
But that's really the only things that I kind of take into consideration. Mm-hmm. Just so that I stay interested and that I'm working on both muscles, you know what I mean? I don't get too, that my comedic chops don't atrophy or vice versa. So I think that's important.
Comedic.
Yeah, and it keeps me interested as well, right? Yeah. So I'm not playing the same beats over and over for a long period of time. So after Turner and Hooch, hopefully the next thing will be some kind of dramatic role.
I love it. I love it. Well, Brandon, I thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This is awesome. And you are welcome to come back anytime.
100%. Maybe when Turner and Hooch comes out, which it'll come out sometime this year, we can talk again.
I would love that.
Okay, stay in touch, please.